First, we found out the biggest criminal in Clash Royale. Now we must find out the biggest war criminal. The cards of Clash Royale are all soldiers fighting a war for the kings. Since they're all participating in a war, that means we can charge the king for his war crimes. Since the king is the one orchestrating this conflict, he will be the only person charged with war crimes outside of weaponry, and in the end, every single war crime will be held against him. The cards themselves will be judged on their weaponry, since that is the thing they use to fight the war. So let's get into it. I'll be using weapons banned by the Red Cross, which should be linked in the description if you want a good list of every war crime. The main weapon categories that will be used in this video are serrated weapons, weapons that cause unnecessary suffering while slicing or stabbing, barbed weapons, which cause unnecessary suffering when pulling out of a wound, poisons, nuclear weapons, biological weapons, chemical weapons, expanding bullets, explosives, booby traps, landmines, incendiary weapons, blinding lasers, cluster munitions, area bombardments, and improvised weaponry. Also, only in-game crimes will be counted, so anything in Clash Royale or the extended universe will not be counted. Finally, my friend just told me that Hog Rider's a war crime because he's actually, I probably shouldn't finish that sentence. First, we take a look at every card that has not committed a war crime. These cards are the Giant, Knight, Archers, Princess Tower, Musketeer, Cannon, Goblin Cage, Electro Spirit, Royal Giant, Mortar, Hog Rider, Flying Machine, P.E.K.K.A, Bats, Royal Recruits, Royal Hogs, Dark Prince, Ice Spirit, Ice Golem, Dark Goblin, Golem, Hunter, 3 Musketeers, Zappies, Valkyrie, Expo, Electro Wizard, Ram Rider, Mega Knight, Electro Dragon, Ice Wizard, Royal Ghost, Bowler, Electro Giant, Bandit, Elixir Collector, Cannon Cart, Mirror, Tornado, Clone, Golden Knight, Archer Queen, Monk, and Little Prince. Mirror and Clone are kind of strange cases that I will get into later, and Battle Hero and Hero Spirit raise up some questions that will also be answered later. But first, we take a look at the Archers. Arrows are only considered barbed if the arrow hooks back less than 90 degrees, which lets Archers, Archer Queen, and Princess Tower off the hook for these war crimes. Cards that use fists don't get any war crimes since they fight using the most basic tool, the hand. Surprisingly, guns and cannons also don't commit war crimes, and thus cannot be held accountable as a war crime. Electricity also has no bans, so electrical attacks are all fair game. Another thing I considered were animal cards to be labeled as biological weapons, like bats or Ram Rider, but it seems like biological weapons only applies to crap like neurotoxins and viruses. Pristine swords are also not a war crime, but they can become one if they become chipped. And that leads us into our first war crime, serration. This war crime is committed by goblins, mini P.E.K.K.A, spear goblins, skeletons, goblin hut, arrows, tombstone barbarians, battle ram, skirmy, guards, goblin barrel, goblin gang, skeleton barrel, barbarian hut, goblin giant, barbarian barrel, rascals, graveyard, elite barbarians, executioner, goblin drill, night witch, mirror, clone, and mighty miner. These are all cards that commit the war crime of serrated weaponry. However, most of these aren't serrated in the way you'd imagine. When you hear serrated, you probably think of a steak knife or something of the sort. However, most of these cards get charged for serration because their weapons are chipped. Take the goblins, whose knife has a chip in it, and even though that's barely anything, it would still cause unnecessary harm, and thus it's a war crime. That's why most of these cards are here actually, since they all have chipped blades which look cool, but will land them 20 years in jail. For Goblin Drill and Mighty Miner, the drill's drill head has edges that can cause extra damage. For Clone and Mirror, they can technically have any war crime that another card has, or none, depending on what card they mirror or clone, so they are kind of in a separate class. Next are barbed weapons, committed by Arrows, Prince, Magic Archer, Mirror, Clone, and Fisherman. As already said, a barbed weapon is any weapon that causes extra damage to pull out of a wound, like a fish hook. Arrows and Magic Archer's arrows hook at less than a 90-degree angle, so they count as a barb. Prince's lance is also kind of sus-shaped, so it counts as a barb. Finally, Fisherman has the fishhook anchor thing, which is hooked in a way that makes it hard to pull out. And Mirror and Clone are here for obvious reasons. Next is Poison, committed by one card. Can you guess it? It's Poison, duh. And Mirror. Not Clone though, since you can't clone spells. Next is Nuclear Weapons, which, I mean, no card commits, but it feels wrong not giving Sparky a war crime. And it probably takes a nuclear reactor to power this thing, so I'm gonna give Sparky the war crime of the use of a nuclear weapon. And this applies to Mirror and Clone. Biological weapons are up next, and we have minions, Mega Minion, Witch, Minion Horde, Inferno Dragon, Log, Rascals, Elixir Golem, Mirror, Clone, Fisherman, Mother Witch, and Skeleton King. The minions throw Dark Elixir, which is confirmed to be oil, and oil is made of fossils, so it's kind of a biological weapon. It's debatable, but I couldn't find anything not calling oil a biological weapon, so I might as well give it. Since what are they gonna do for an extra 60 years of freedom? Same goes for Elixir Golem, which is basically a blood alcohol monster, so that's close enough. Witch and Skeleton King summon corpses to fight, and I guess you could make the argument that every skeleton is a biological weapon, but I'm only counting these two because they summon fresh corpses. It's debatable, but you could easily add 10 more war crimes if you include the every skeleton cards here. Log is a raged piece of wood, and the wood is infected. I don't know why I put this here, but I did, so it stays. The Rascal Girls fire spit-covered chewing gum, which could infect a wound. Mother Witch uses a magical potion that likely has biological components to turn you into a pig. And finally, Fishman uses a fish as a weapon, which could infect someone. And finally, Inferno Dragon is fueled with Dark Elixir, which is oil. This entire section is very debatable, but I think at least some of these make sense. Chemical weapons. Minions, Mega Minion Zap, Freeze, Lightning, Minion Horde, Earthquake, Rage, Lumberjack, Mirror, Clone, and Mother Witch. Minions are obvious, and the spells are shown as chemicals in their bottles. Lumberjack also drops a Rage, which is a chemical, and the Mother Witch's pot contains a deadly chemical in it. There are no cards with expanding bullets, so we move on to exploding weapons. This category includes Cannoneer, Fireball, Bomber, Wizard, Bomb Tower, Rocket, Balloon, Giant Skeleton, Firecracker, Wallbreakers, Phoenix, Mirror Clone, and Mighty Miner. All of these cards use an explosive as part of their attack. Phoenix's death damage counts as explosive, and Wizard's Fireball is debatable, but it seems to burst on impact, which is good enough for me. Booby traps and landmines each have basically the same cards that commit these war crimes, those being the Balloon, Giant Skeleton, Bomb Tower, Hidden Tesla, Mirror, Clone, and Mighty Miner. The only difference is that Tesla isn't a landmine, only a booby trap. The other cards get charged with the booby trap and landmine crime for the bomb they drop upon death, which for some reason the troops don't notice, so it may be concealed, which is literally what a landmine is, and a landmine is also a booby trap. Now for probably the largest category, incendiary weapons. The cards that commit this crime are Cannoneer, Fireball, Bomber, Fire Spirit, Skeleton Dragons, Wizard, Inferno Tower, Bomb Tower, Rocket, Witch, Baby Dragon, Balloon, Giant Skeleton, Furnace, Princess, Inferno Dragon, Firecracker, Wallbreakers, Phoenix, Lava Hound, Mirror Clone, and Mighty Miner. Last time when I looked at the card crimes, I thought the stuff like death bombs weren't fiery enough to be considered incendiary, but looking at it again, every single bomb a card uses is a form of a firebomb. This category should be pretty self-explanatory after that. For blinding laser weapons, only 2 cards technically fall into this category, being the Inferno Tower and Inferno Dragon. I say this because their attacks are literal laser beams, which could probably blind someone with a shot in their eye. Also, Clone and Mirror get this charge as well. Cluster munitions are only committed by 1 card, being the Firecracker, and Mirror and Clone by extension. The bazooka splitting after being fired from the bazooka is literally a cluster missile, and she's the only card who gets this charge. Sadly, Hunter's Shotgun does not count as a cluster munition. For the second to last war crime, we have Area Bombardment, committed by Fireball, Rocket, Balloon, Royal Delivery, Mirror, and Clone. I suppose other cards could be considered for this, but these cards resemble actual things used to bombard areas, although Royal Delivery is a bit of a stretch. Balloon literally carpet bombs buildings, so he's here as well. And before the final war crime, we have Medical Ambiguity. You can't shoot or kill battle medics purposefully in war, but medics do carry sidearms to defend themselves. I couldn't find anything on whether medics could go on the offense though, since that would be kind of weird if your team could shoot the enemy, but your enemies were banned from shooting you. Although that's basically cancel culture in a nutshell. Actually, I just found out that if a medic goes on the offensive, they lose their special protection, and a medic going on the offensive is not a war crime. Battle Healer and Heal Spirit have no war crimes. Finally, improvised weaponry. These are anything used as a weapon that are not designed to be a weapon. Cards that commit this are the Giant Snowball, Miner, Firecracker, Rascals, Bowler, Bandit, Fisherman, and Mighty Miner. Shovels, snowballs, gum, fish, sticks, drills, and big rocks were not originally meant to be weapons, and Firecracker created her own bazooka, making it not an official weapon. Let's take a look at which cards have the highest crime count. In 5th place, we have 2 cards, Firecracker and Giant Skeleton. For being the biggest criminal in terms of US federal laws, it's kind of sad that Firecracker is no longer the biggest committer of crimes, with them both committing 4 war crimes. In 4th, we have Balloon, who commits 5 war crimes, most of which is because of bombs. In 3rd, we surprisingly have Mighty Miner with 6 war crimes, mostly due to bombs again, and being pushed slightly over Balloon due to his improvised drill. Now we have a huge jump to number 2, Clone, with 14 war crimes. This is because this card can become nearly every card in the game and commit all those war crimes. However, one more card barely beats it out, Mirror. Mirror has 15 war crimes because of Poison, a card that Clone cannot steal its war crimes from. Congratulations! A Mirror is the biggest war criminal in Clash Royale. Or is it? The king is the leader of this war, so he must be held accountable for all these war crimes. But before that, we must look at what crimes he directly commits. The king commits aerial bombardment, attacking medical personnel, indiscriminate attacks, destruction of property of an adversary, and hostage-taking. Hostage-taking is for the Goblin Cage, attacking medical personnel is for attacking battle healers, although that's debatable. And aerial bombardment and indiscriminate attacks are for spells like Fireball, which will kill everything it touches. He already has 5 crimes, so let's count up everyone else's. In total, the cards of Clash Royale commit 135 war crimes. Add in the king's 5, and the king is the cause of 140 war crimes. It is inconsistent what the punishment for war crimes are, ranging from life sentence to 12 years in prison, so let's go with 20 years. 140 times 20 is 2,800. The king would be spending 2,800 years in jail. To compare, he would be in prison for over 3 times the lifespan of Yoda. And that's the end of the video. Thanks for the 1,000 subs. I'm really glad that me doing stupid videos about video games are reaching people, and I hope to make better content in the future. If you have any video ideas or you want me to start something like a Discord server, comment down below and subscribe for a good day. With that said, see you guys next time.